How do we composite? What a great question. Let's have a look. You can see here I've made this animation where this little heart flies out of a tin, sliced in half, and etc. It's all good. Now, how do we construct such a thing? Here's the same setup, but with all the animations stripped out, and we can have a look. You can see here, we turn off the lid, and the lid is on one layer, and it's actually all made out of the same image. Then if we turn off the background, which is behind everything, in front of that, because it's up is in front, we can see we've got this foreground layer here, and we've got the heart that goes in between it. If we lock the layers so that we can grab the heart more easily, and it's important to remember that you need to be able to lock layers so that you can select them, you can see it comes out, but of course if it wanders over here, it's just in front of like it's in front of a board. How do we make such a thing? You'll notice here that the heart is beating. So the first thing I did was I started by getting the heart image and dragging it down into a composition and then cutting it out with the pen tool. I'm not going to do it at all carefully here, but very, very roughly. Once it was cut out carefully, I then added some liquefying to give it some pulsing. So to animate the liquefy tool, we open liquefy and turn on distortion mesh and make sure we're on frame 1. I used just some bloating and some shrinking. Also, in the work I did, I used a mask to, do 2 different layers so that they changed. So anyway, so I've done that on the very first frames, and I move it along. Roughly, it wouldn't be every half second. So if I do 6 frames on from that, and all I'm going to do now is paint out those things. So that's the undo tool. So now we've got just a difference. Not as carefully as I did before, but that will do. So that's all I need. So now we also want it to be able to move around a bit. So I'm going to give it position and rotation keyframes. And I'm going to move to my frame 6 and lift it up a little bit, just not much, and rotate it a little bit. So as it's pulsing, it's just moving a little bit as well. Great. Now, if I open everything up and give myself some room, we've got we've got the keyframe for that and the keyframe for that. So I can grab all of those, copy them, go to frame 12, paste them in, and then just keep doing that. So copy all of those, six frames on from that, paste those. Actually, I think I had an extra one, and keep going. Copy each time you do it, the amount that you get becomes bigger and bigger, and then very soon you can fill up quite a large amount. So then we've got a pulsing heart. Let's go back to our thing and look about how we create the layering effect that I did there between the different elements. So I'm going to get a new composition, and that's not big enough, so I'm going to, oh, what the hell, I won't do it that way. What I'll do is I'll get the project, I'll get the background, and I'll just drag it down in and make a composition that's basically the same size as the image, which you might not want to do. You might want to work to a standard size, like HD or whatever. But here, so first thing I want to do is create the lid by dragging, making sure when you use the pen tool you've got the layer selected first, otherwise it creates a shape layer. So select the layer first and you get something like that. Great. Now I'm going to call that lid in a minute, but before I do that I want to make a background for that exactly fits that. I haven't done that very carefully. I would go in and edit it with this arrow tool normally and get it very nice, but by going Command D we duplicate that layer, and then on the one below, which will be the background layer, under the mask we go subtract. So then we've got lid and background, lid and background. Okay, so what we do then is we name the lid layer, and always make sure you name your layers. Now, with this one, we're going to duplicate it again. And on the middle layer, selecting the middle layer, yeah, turn the lid layer off so we can see, grab the pen tool and cut from way outside to across here, up here, and then what we do is we make that second mask subtract. And then if we turn off the background layer, we can see we've got our front that everything else can move behind. Now I'm going to call that, and great. So if we turn everything back on, we would then be able to bring our heart into here. We bring it in. Oh, that's not the right one. Well, it is, but it's much bigger because it is. Of course, I've got to shrink it down because I was using a... first of all, I'm going to have to actually get the... There we go. Okay. Now, so that's in there. We want this layer, this closed heart layer, to go in between the foreground and the background. Like so. Then it'll go behind the lid and in behind there. We lift the lid up. So to animate this, I'll only animate the lid, but everything else works the same. For that, I'm going to go transform, position, and rotation. And before I animate, I have to get the rotation tool and make sure that it's centered in there. Then I can replicate those keyframes further on, lift it, go further up. I can lift the lid up. I can rotate it around. I can go further, land it on the ground, or flip it all the way over first, and then land it on the ground. And there I have how the animation will actually work. Great. Now in the final one, I obviously did sort of fancy things, did it more carefully, like the lid lands, for instance, with a little vibration. But you get the idea. If you have any questions, contact me. Thanks.